So, A Quiet Place came out in 2018 and received a lot of praise for how well it did. It did so well that a sequel to the film is being made and being released sometime this year due to coronavirus delaying everything and fucking everything up. Recently I watched A Quiet Place because it's been released on Netflix in the UK, but I don't want to talk about the film as a whole. I'll do that for a later video. I only want to talk about the opener, because the opener of the film is not only great for a horror film, but it's great for all films in general. Before we get into that though, if you do end up enjoying my content, please do consider subscribing and turning on the bell and all that jazz. But anyway, on with the video. Prior to seeing any scenery shown, we do get a simple piece of text that just says Day 89, which can be assumed as a few things, but then we get our first shot of the film, an abandoned street. No cars driving down the lanes, leaves flying everywhere, and traffic lights fall into the ground. Then we have a shot outside a pharmacy, with many missing people's pictures up on a board. From what's been shown without any dialogue, we can deduce from that the people in the movie are amongst a disaster that has left many people either dead or missing and has been going on for at least 89 days. Then we see inside the store itself, various shops of empty shelves and shopping carts toppled over. After that, we're given two shots back to back of two different aisles in the store. One shows one of the characters, which I'll call Child 3, running from one aisle to another. The other shot shows another character, who I'll call Child 1. Both are shown to be running and walking with no shoes or socks on, implying that shoes make too much noise in this scenario. Already we can see that the severity of the situation is pretty extreme. Even the slightest tap of the shoe will give away their location, and there's no sound when the camera is focused on her, so we can easily assume that she either has some sort of hearing problem or that she's just deaf. After a few shots shown of Child 1 and Child 3, we're given a panning shot showing two more of the main protagonists. Firstly, we are shown Child 2, who seems to be lying on the ground, slouched up against the shelves in agony. Whilst the second character walks over to Child 2, the camera slowly pans over to her as she comes into focus, and we are introduced to the mother. She walks past the boy just to get a bottle of pills, supposedly painkillers. I don't know, I'm just guessing, I don't know what disease he has, or illness, I don't know. When she's moving the bottles around to find the right medication, she's very focused on making sure that she makes as little sound as possible, another demonstration on the severity of the situation. Child 1 walks over to make sure everything is okay. The mother uses sign language to reassure Child 1. This indicates that all our protagonists have learnt sign language in order to communicate, not only because Child 1 is deaf, but because talking will make too much noise, let alone shoe tapping. Even the youngest child, Child 1, has learnt sign language when we see him communicate with Child 3 about how they're going to escape this nightmare. Then we see Child 1 reaching for a rocket on a high shelf, which he reaches by using a box to climb on. Now we know that he likes rockets because he drew a rocket, and now he wants a toy rocket. Wow, great analysis! But then, shock horror, he accidentally knocks it off the shelf. But another shock horror, Child 3 grabs it just before it hits the ground, then she puts it back on the shelf and takes Child 1 off the box, and they both walk towards the final protagonist who hasn't been introduced. The father, who is also one of my favourite actors, and the host of SGN, not IGN. We see that the father is rummaging around for technology when he picks up a camera and some sort of motherboard from a box. Child 3 asks, well, in sign language, for the radio, which he replies, might boost the signal. This means they've been trying to reach out to other people using the radio, either for confirmation of other signs of life and or to reach out for help. Then the mother and Child 2 regroup with them and they decide to leave because it will be dark soon. But then Child 1 walks over with something we can't see due to camera shooting from behind him. As he walks over, we can see everyone's faces fill with horror and fear when they've seen what he's got in his hands. What's he got, you ask? Well, he's a little kid only focused on one thing at a time. He got the rocket, obviously. But thanks to the father, he defused the suspenseful situation carefully by taking the rocket and removing the batteries from it, so it is impossible to make any noise. He then makes sure Child 1 understands by saying, too loud, enough to make him realise they'll get them in trouble. Then they leave the store to make the next leg of their journey. But oh no, something must happen. Child 3 gives Child 1 the rocket back, but without the batteries, because he totally can't get the batteries from the desk, can he? After that, both children rejoin the group. Now we can see from the ceiling-like shot that the protagonists have created a trail so that they don't have to walk on the road barefoot, decreasing their chance of one of the characters screaming out in pain from digging their feet into the stone ground. Anyway, the characters are seen crossing multiple parts of the journey, from the empty street, to the train tracks, to the forest, and finally, to the bridge. This shows that the family have been doing this for some time and know their way around the area due to the trails they've created. Now everyone is crossing the bridge quite calmly, not having to worry about much after having succeeded from their risky venture, and suddenly this noise starts playing, and what does it sound like? That's right, you guessed it, it's the rocket! The face on the father says it all really, the realisation of what's just happened and what's about to happen. The father races towards Child 1 as this fearful and suspenseful music starts to build up. As the father's running, he sees the creature from the forest merge, not getting a clear view of it, but that's not the point. He knows what it wants and what it's attracted to. Now we know what could happen to the child. It's a race against time for the father to reach the child before the monster can. As the father runs, the camera pans to the faces of the mother and child 3, knowing it's almost certain that child 1 is doomed, because they have encountered these creatures before and know its abilities, such as its speed. Then the camera pans back to child 1 as we see the creature emerge from the forest, only getting a split second to see what it is due to it being so fast. But within the blink of an eye, child 1's been taken. The father was too slow compared to the creature. The outcome of child 1 is certain now, and the title rolls. So what about this makes it a great opener? Well, we're introduced to all the main characters, even if not all of them make it past the introduction. We also learn some characteristics about them. For example, child 3 is deaf, child 2 has some sort of illness, and the father has some expertise in the radios and technology. We know what scenery they'll be stuck in for the rest of the film, and how they've adapted to it. For example, creating trails so they can walk barefoot from place to place. With the absence of noise, plus a few lines delivered by the father and the mother, we know that the plot is just like what life would be like without noise, and how it is dealt during this pandemic. Also, the introduction of the monster shows us the consequences if you step outside of line, plot-wise. Severity of the consequences is also shown when the shot of the missing people's board is visible, and is demonstrated when one of the main protagonists is taken out of the picture. And these are the things you need to know about any film with its opening scene. Some films complete these points during the film, which is fine, but it does still make the audience have some ambiguity with the situation. One example is Guardians of the Galaxy. The main plot derives around getting the Power Stone out of the wrong hands, which isn't all that clear until the start of the scene where Peter, Quill and Gamora first meet. The consequences are shown about halfway into the movie when they meet the Collector and he explains what the Power Stone's abilities are. Now, I'm not ripping on Guardians of the Galaxy, I think it's an amazing movie. I'm just saying its opener doesn't do a great job of nailing everything. Some extra points I'd just like to add in. They're not exactly what makes a great opener, but they do make the movie just that bit better. When child 3 is the only person in shot, all diegetic and non-diegetic sound is removed, which makes her deafness that much more impactful and makes us feel closer to the character. With the absence of sound, I see it as a way of mocking horror movies today. Most horror movies have lots of sound and then right before a jump scare, they make it all silent. In this movie, you can never really tell when you're about to be scared because, of course, it's always going to be silent. I love the music when the father's racing against the monster. The music seems like a generic horror movie trope when it's used in every single horror movie, but it also feels so unique. I don't think I've ever loved music from a horror movie before until this. With John Krasinski as the director and writer of this movie, I think he did an excellent job at both roles. I think he can cast the right people for the movie, especially when it came to the mother. Not only do Emily Blunt and John Krasinski have brilliant chemistry together, but they're also married in real life, which makes it even more special. And there you go, that was my take on why A Quiet Place has the greatest opener, not to just any horror movie, but to any movie. If you disagree with me, comment what film you think has the greatest opener. Also comment what you want me to review next. If you actually do want to see me do more reviews, then let me know by subscribing, it would be a great help. As always, thank you for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.